Pop culture is not difficult to describe, but it is near impossible to predict. Anything preferred or creates a buzz by the mainstream population is deemed to be pop culture. The book definition says that pop culture is a collection of thoughts, ideas, attitudes, perspectives, and images that are elevated to widespread prominence in the everyday population. For something to become pop culture, it must address 4 criteria. It must be dealt with on a local, national, and global scale, the masses, something that the internet has greatly assisted in. It must be involved in commerce and to be bought and sold. And finally, it must be constantly changing to reflect society's evolving views. These 4 points are important as they differentiate short-lived trends such as the twist, poodle skirts, and saddle shoes from the 1950s from popular culture, such as rock and roll, which, despite developing around the same time, continued to evolve and is still popular today. Have you ever heard of Bernard Loomis? Probably not. An eccentric man born into poverty in the Bronx, New York, doesn't quite have the same popularity as his products. Hot Wheels, Barbie, Care Bears, Play-Doh, Baby Alive, and Strawberry Shortcake, just to name a few. In 1969, Loomis began the concept of toyetic productions, films, TV shows, games, and other productions that were suitable for merchandising tie-ins, an idea that is still very prominent today. The Hot Wheels developer suggested they develop a 30-minute show to be released alongside the new car range as a means to promote the toys. The shows were aired on Saturday morning for 2 years before the government, after protest from a rival toy company, deemed it as advertising and took it off the networks in 1971. The explosion in popularity for Hot Wheels spoke for itself though. Loomis had created the first branded toy for Mattel and by advertising on TV had expanded the market right into children's homes, making millions for the small toy company and earning Loomis the title of the man who invented Saturday morning. Loomis soon moved to Kenner Toys, a subsidiary of General Mills in 1970, and within his first 8 years there he had developed and marketed Baby Alive, Play-Doh, the $6 Million Man, the Bionic Woman, and many more. During this time, Kenner Toys, with Loomis as its president, was approached by Steven Spielberg to create a line of toys for Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but Loomis refused, not considering the characters toyetic enough. However, in 1977, when Star Wars was released, Loomis saw it as the perfect marketable film and secured the official license. Star Wars proved to be so popular for Kenner that they were unable to fulfill the demand for toys brought on by the hype for the film. The initial plan was to release the first wave of 3-inch figures a year after the film was. In the lead up to Christmas, however, the hype for Star Wars was so huge that instead they sold 500,000 early bird certificate packages, essentially an empty box with a mail-in pre-order card for the next batch of figures. Kenner also accidentally invented the pre-order business model in the process. Kenner's initial range of 12 figures grew to 20 while the pre-orders were filled and sales reached over 40 million units at a revenue of $100 million by the end of 1978. This set the trend for films and toy sales for the next 30 years as companies released toys and merchandise along with their movies. Loomis oversaw the models for Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and once again decided on a unique business strategy involving releasing some of the range well before the film hit cinemas, with the idea being to build on the hype for the oncoming picture. By the time Return of the Jedi was approaching cinemas, Kenner had 79 figures on sale, but sales were beginning to decline without movies to support them. This led to Kenner releasing toy lines based off the spin-off animated series Droids and Ewoks. This wasn't enough to say the toy line post-trilogy though, so Kenner ended it after more than 250 million sales, 11 waves of toys, and more than 100 figures. Kenner would revive this line 10 years later, under their new company name Hasbro for one of the biggest toy film advertising ventures ever though. In the mid-1990s, George Lucas was planning to release the Star Wars prequel trilogy, and Loomis, now the head of Hasbro, capitalized on the excitement by recreating the original Power of the Force line from 1977 under the old company name Kenner's. They re-released the figures and even named the previously unknown characters Yak Face, Hammerhead, and Hand Mara Jane from the original film and spin-off series, continuing the trend of glorifying unknown characters to sell more figurines. The focus on the nostalgic original series soon gave way to the insane anticipation for The Phantom Menace in 1998, and also saw Loomis leave Hasbro to found his own development firm. In one of the biggest advertising campaigns in history, Hasbro released sneak peek figures of the new characters a year ahead of the film's premiere at special midnight store openings. Another 2 spin-off toy lines, Hero Age and Voice Chip, saw the characters remodeled super muscly and featuring digital chips to speak their lines from the film. 2006 saw the untimely death of then-retired Bernard Loomis at 83. However, his legacy was still as strong as ever. Over the next 2 prequel films, Hasbro listened to fans and introduced more articulation in their figures, a move which proved to be very popular. The company made a huge push as they believed the end of the Star Wars line was drawing close with the end of the prequel trilogy. Hasbro released sneak preview figurines for Revenge of the Sith, just like they did for the Phantom Menace, featuring extra articulation and better sculpting. The success of this line spurred Hasbro to go back and recreate the previous films, once again, with the premium features and quality. However, in the late 2000s, after lines based on the animated Clone Wars film, the toy market shifted away from figures, and the detailed models were costing Hasbro too much to make. The company had to do something different, and instead of discontinuing the line, decided to split it into two: a 6-inch series maintaining the detail and marketed at a much higher price, and the original 3 3/4-inch size with less articulation and features, marketed at kids. This brings us up to 2015, and the landscape has changed. Hasbro, after making almost $6 billion off the series in just the last 20 years, continue their established lines, though Disney now owns the license to the Star Wars series. The imminent release of The Force Awakens, the first new Star Wars film in 10 years, saw Disney's marketing team go all out and release their own range of figurines to compete with Hasbro's. Since 1977, the Star Wars films have taken just over $6 billion of revenue at the box office. However, compared to the $12 billion just in toy sales from Kenner and Hasbro alone, the numbers speak for themselves, and Star Wars can even be considered the founder of film merchandise tie-ins. This presentation has been specific to the Kenner and Hasbro toy lines and the way that they changed over time to fulfill the definition of pop culture. However, BB-8 oranges, Yoda grapes, C-3PO cereal and tape dispenser, a Darth Vader imprinting toaster, a Wampa rug, Lando cologne and disguise kit, Wookiee Crocs, and of course the Jar Jar Binks candy tongue all have to get a special mention, as they exist to show the world just how far companies are willing to go to sell something by slapping a brand on it and bring their product into popular culture.